I am Dustin Sanchez. You're watching Dustin Sanchez TV. We got a great show for you today. Going to be talking with family law attorney Lisa Bustos out of Austin, Texas. She runs Bustos Family Law, small family law firm, but she's growing, and we got a great show for you today. Let's get into it. Okay, we're here with attorney Lisa Bustos out of Austin, Texas. She's at bustosfamilylaw.com. You can find her on the web. Just Google attorney Lisa Bustos. But today, we're going to talk about how Lisa got her start as an attorney, why she chose family law, what kind of trials and tribulations did she face building a successful family law firm. I think she has 2 or 3 associates. We'll get into all of that. But Lisa, thanks for joining us. Tell us about yourself. Give us a short elevator pitch bio on attorney Lisa Bustos.
All right. So I am the first lawyer in my family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a bus driver. I graduated college during the Great Recession and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life other than not be unemployed. So I went to law school because that seemed to make sense. And then, I didn't grow up in a family of lawyers. I didn't have a lot of connections. I kind of had to hustle my way into everything and figure out what that looked like for me, because I think, law school seems like a straightforward path until that path just disappears. So, I started practicing family law 10 years ago and opened up my own firm 4 years ago after discovering I am not a good employee. I'm a terrible employee, which makes you a great entrepreneur.
Okay, well, that's interesting. You have the parents were bus driver and teacher, first attorney, Great Recession. So I imagine you graduated, undergrad or law school right around 2010?
Yeah, I graduated undergrad in 2009.
Okay, because I came out of law school in 2010 and they sat us all down and said, you're graduating in the worst market in 20 years for attorneys. Good luck.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So where did you go to law school?
So I went to law school at St. Louis University in St. Louis.
Okay.
The year I applied to law school, it seemed like everybody also applied to law school. So it was a bit more competitive, despite having, high GPA, high LSAT score, high everything. It was tough to get into law school. So I got waitlisted a bunch of places.
Okay.
And St. Louis University, they said, come on through, and they gave me a scholarship. And for someone who did not come from, a trust fund family, I said, yeah. Like, I'd never lived outside of Texas before, and I decided that it was time to go. And so I went to St. Louis and moved back to Texas immediately upon graduation to take the Texas bar and come back home.
Okay, cool. Why did you choose family law?
I have an undergrad degree in psychology, and a part of me has always been drawn to weird people. And I think that's, that's a very tongue-in-cheek way of saying, everybody's weird. Everybody has their own quirks, and people are individuals. I think that family law made the most sense to me when I was studying for the Texas bar. I didn't decide to do it until I was studying for the Texas bar. I studied tax law in law school, which is a great way to lower your GPA. So I thought that family law made the most sense. I did not want to be a litigator. I did not realize that family law is all litigation. But I have this weird problem that when I decide to swing, I swing big. And so I just jumped right on into it so that I could really learn it. And there have been times that have been awesome, and there have been times that have truly sucked. And, you ride the highs and the lows, and you take it all as a learning experience so that you can really, I think, just grow as a person and as an attorney, so that you can be eventually better than you were the day before.
Yeah. I did family law for a few months. One of the weird cases I had was, I guess the ex husband broke into where the soon to be ex husband broke into where the soon to be ex wife was staying. And on the way in, he found a dead wasp on the ground. And then he like assaulted her with that dead wasp. And I was just like, are y'all making this up?
I hope she wasn't allergic. Like when does a wasp become a deadly weapon? Is
right.
The nuances of being a lawyer that you never thought you would ask.
I'm completely averse to insects and wasps, and I would really have to hate my wife to pick up a wasp and assault her with it. But I guess he didn't mind so much. You ever have any weird cases like that?
Yes. I've had cases that have been, the parties have been on TV before the parties have been on Snapped. Which is, one of the cable networks TV shows where usually someone gets to the emotional point that they snap and someone gets murdered usually. I've had, I didn't realize what I was stepping into until after I stepped into it. And I've had those cases. I've had cases where, sometimes it's politicians or they're certain significant people. They're doing things that they're not supposed to, and all of a sudden, like maybe they're not my client, but their lover is.
Oh wow.
So there's been it. I like to say that if you like gossip of any kind, family law is a good area for you, and then you just have no interest in gossip anymore, unless you're paying me for it. I just don't care.
Deal with that all day.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you must have been an associate for what, 6 years before you went on your own?
Yeah. So I started off, and I like I mentioned earlier, I had to kind of hustle my way into a job because I moved back to Texas and I didn't know anybody. And so I hustled my way into a job as a family law attorney, originally in San Antonio. And I wanted to move back to Austin because I went to St. Edward's, which is an undergraduate institution here. And I eventually got another job at another firm doing family law here in Austin. I liked the people, did not like the culture. And I didn't realize at the time that I had ADHD, and there's certain things about my brain that do not fit in line with law firm culture.
Okay.
My brain thinks differently. It does things, I cannot change it. And so after about 5 years of working for someone else, I quit, and I was going to quit being a lawyer altogether.
Oh.
I call it my a few months of just being, I was going to be a wild woman in the desert. And then again, newsflash, I'm not a trust fund baby. No offense to trust fund babies. You're very lucky. I just am not one of them. And I met my husband, and he reminded me that I have to work to earn a living.
Okay.
So I got another job for another attorney who's a friend of mine. I had met her and decided to do some contract work from her. She was starting, doing her own solo firm thing. And I learned a lot working there. But like I said, my brain just works differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to create my own space. I like to think that I'm a decent boss. I'm a terrible employee. I just I'm not good at entering my time in on time. I'm not good at all the small things that make you money as a lawyer.
Did y'all we had to enter our time point tenth of an hour. Like I worked 4.10 hours, 4.3. And that was just always a pain in the butt.
It's a very tedious process. It's valuable in that you make money because that's how you make money. But it is tedious, and my brain just does not like it. And also for me, working for someone else did not necessarily make sense. So my husband really encouraged me to open up my own shop, and we had just gotten married, and we were in a position where we could take a bit of a financial risk. And so, I opened up my own shop. It was just me and a laptop at my kitchen table, and trying to get new clients and hustle and learn about marketing and learn about opening a business. And then I found, holy smokes, this is what I should have been doing my whole life. This is what I love to do. Like, I love being a firm owner. I love working with my employees. I love meeting clients. I love all of it. This is what I was meant to do.
Well, that's odd because you were on the verge of quitting law altogether, and there was this whole other world you didn't realize that you loved. Um, my last time being an attorney, I was doing helping companies get tax development breaks, tax law, and I tried my hand at tax law just like you. And one Thursday, I just called him and I was like, "Hey, I'm not coming back." No, but I was telling my friend yesterday on the porch, like, I had 120,000 in the bank, and I said, worst case scenario, I'll go live under a bridge, and I'll just figure this out. And I got down to like $7,000 before I got this company to work. But what was your process like? You had to have some kind of, I don't know if you were like, you were like a pros and con sheet or something. You had to have some kind of thought process from, I have a job, I'm getting a steady paycheck, let me go out on my own now. What was that like?
I also had a bit of a savings, not as large as you did, but I had a bit of a savings that I could, start some things with and have a cushion. But my process was really, I felt frustrated, and I didn't have control, and I didn't have, my opinions, I think, mattered, but they weren't making decisions. And they were things that I needed to have control of. So when I say, like, I almost stopped practicing law, I didn't like the way that I was being told to practice law. I wanted to practice law in a certain way and connect with clients in a certain way, and I was being discouraged from doing that. So that was really my philosophy, as to the mission of the firm is connecting with clients in the way that I really needed to. But as far as the business aspect, the very first thing that I did is I invested in marketing. And there's a lot of ways to lose money in marketing, especially as lawyers, because you don't know anything, and someone comes in with a sales pitch and you say, "Hey, that sounds good. I want to be found on Google. What does that mean?" Most people, especially lawyers, go straight into Google paid ads, where it is a nice little money pit for you to just throw money into and not get any return on investment. And so I took a marketing class for lawyers, which helped me discern the good stuff from the BS.
Okay.
And so I was able to find a great SEO guy, Dustin. He was able
Who
to help.
did you take your marketing class for lawyers with?
So her name's Allison Williams. She is a divorce attorney out of New Jersey. She is a multi-million dollar, she has a multi-million dollar firm. And the thing is that when she would say stuff, I would say, like, I would see her comment on different Facebook forums, and I thought, well, crap, she's saying exactly what I've been thinking this whole time. It is using objective numbers, collecting data, actually making decisions based on data instead of just going by the gut, and how to collect data. So I would go to her classes, and she would give you spreadsheets so that you could actually use to track stuff. I think it was, for me, a great beginning to scratch the surface on learning things. And since then, I've tried to really expand my knowledge beyond that. But I started with coaching. I started with these coaching classes for marketing so that I could just learn the basics, because I didn't know, this is not my area. And I don't intend to make it my area, but I do intend to at least be able to sniff out the BS.
Yeah, that's so important, because this isn't even touched on in law school. The fact that you're going to have to Okay, most of my class, we were all sitting in law school thinking, as soon as I get this piece of paper, I'm going to go get $160,000 job at a big law firm. And what a lot of us found out was that was just a business license. Like now you're a business owner. Uh,
Yeah. But we didn't tell you anything about business.
it's so funny because you can just throw money at marketing. And it sounds like one of the things you were frustrated with was that there were no numbers behind any of it. You had nothing to track. And when Allison Williams started giving you spreadsheets, you're like, at least I have something to track now.
Yeah, and an idea of what to track.
Yeah.
There's the hey, that sounds good in theory, but how do you actually practice it? And we've used things and redeveloped them and kind of are growing. The idea is, I think the idea is not to stay stagnant, both in business and in marketing, in everything, so that you can continue to grow. Because I feel like once you get set in your ways, which is very comfortable, you stop, getting new clients, you stop appealing to people. I think there's a natural human to human attraction to growth.
Okay.
You don't want to be in stagnant water. You don't want to be with stagnant people.
Definitely. A friend of mine, I remember this so vividly when we both graduated engineers. He was like, God, finally I can stop learning. What are you talking about? We're engineers. Everything changes all the time.
What kind of engineer are you? I feel like it's like being a lawyer. Once you graduate from law school, you're a lawyer forever. Once you're an engineer forever.
Yeah, I'm a nuclear engineer, and a lawyer too, and a marketing guy. Mainly, I sit in front of my computer all day. What was the name of those Facebook forums for anyone maybe trying to do what you did? Do you know where someone could find Allison Williams?
Yeah, so Allison Williams, her group and her whole coaching system is a law firm mentor. And so she has a law firm mentor. She has a Facebook group. I learned about her from Boss Ladies Esquire, which is another, I think it might be international Facebook group, where basically law firm owners or would-be law firm owners want to learn or complain or ask questions about owning a business. And then one of my other favorites is Lawyer on the Beach Facebook group. I've had Facebook since I was 18 years old. And it really has gone from being a social between friends type of thing to actually being a source of business for me. I get a pretty good amount of just new business from Facebook forums that I'm in. People saying, "Hey, I need a divorce lawyer in Austin, Texas," and me saying, "We can help," and putting out my page. People will come to us, from all over the country, because they have a lawyer in Oregon. Okay. But that lawyer in Oregon needs to refer them to a lawyer in Austin. And that's a great way to connect. It's really easy. It's fast. It's free.
Okay. How long were you a solo attorney, law firm owner, before you hired your first associate?
So I think it was probably about 2 years. I was really, really scared to scale and to grow.
Okay.
I think that is one of the things I've seen in other law firm owners that are friends. It's just that willingness to step into risk, because all of a sudden, if I'm hiring someone else, I'm responsible for them and I'm responsible for their paycheck. We have to make sure that they're getting fed, that, I'm complying with all of these laws. In reality, I hired a paralegal first, which is probably the advice that I would give to true solos, is hire a paralegal first, because they're going to be the best money making aspect. And I have, I created and I sat down and I created a whole litigation roadmap of how things go step by step in a divorce or family law process. So from the initial filing, meeting with the client, to drafting up documents, to filing it, to reviewing, to approving, to having meetings with clients, with witnesses, who was doing what between attorney and paralegal. And I was able to actually break down into round estimated times of who would be doing what. And I could see, okay, I have X amount of cases and Y amount of work that I could actually delegate out. And once I did that, I hired my first paralegal who had worked for other family law firms and was just burned out in the process. But we really vibed and we really liked each other. So he started with me part-time. And it was like a low risk for both of us because if he didn't like it, he could bail. Okay. And if I couldn't afford him, I knew that at the very least I could afford 1 month of his salary. Well, within the first month, I tripled my revenue.
Oh, wow.
Like it wasn't just like
tripled your revenue.
It was a triple of revenue. And because all of a sudden I was delegating tasks to him, things weren't getting stuck with me. And one of the other things that I realized most importantly is I needed to track not just my time for billable purposes in the day, but just how I was spending my time. Yeah. You know, I got a little like wristwatch and I put on an alarm to go off every 30 minutes. And then I would just record what I was doing. Did I spend 30 minutes on Facebook? Yeah. Like I was trying to record it without judgment so that I knew exactly what was happening. And okay, I did an hour and a half of admin stuff and then 3 hours of paralegal work or things that could be paralegal work. And I did an hour of lawyer time, which is why I only billed $300 that day.
Right.
So once I hired someone to take over that, you know, the area that was admin and paralegal, I was able to, it wasn't him that was making money. It was me that was making more money because I was freeing up my time by delegating it. So it's something that I use with my current attorneys of how are you spending your time? I don't ask to look at their paper, but I give them that paper that breaks down their day by 30 minutes. Okay. I encourage them to time themselves. And really, you can only do it for like a week or two before you burn out. But you really just keep track of your time so that you know what you're actually doing. And the funny thing is that I found out I had more time than I thought I did.
Wow. This is a very pragmatic approach. Like, how did you get these ideas to do these things, like to make the roadmap, the litigation roadmap, and now start deciding how you're spending your time? Like, where did these ideas come from?
So one of the litigation roadmaps, actually, the litigation roadmap was adapted from a roadmap that was given to me by Allison Williams. She has her own for New Jersey. Every state is very specific. So I took the idea from that, and then I spent, I think, probably 3 days just working on it. And it had taken me about 9 months to come around to actually doing it. But I did it, and I sat down and I hyper-focused, which is my ADHD superpower. When it works, it works. So I hyper-focused and I did that for 3 days. And then the timing issue I had seen in an article years ago, pre-pandemic, about successful women and where their time actually goes, because a lot of people who, this is before I was married or a mother, and I'm now both, they felt like they were overstretched. And the idea was to figure out where your time was actually going. And so they recorded their time throughout the day, and they saw exactly how much time was going to meal planning or taking care of the children or just, zoning out. And a lot of times it helps you appreciate your time more. Okay. So the time that you do have off, you know that you have it off. And so I can actually put in a little box in my head of, this is something that is, this is my time off. I get to relax. And this is the X amount of time, it's a guesstimate. I'm not really being this data specific, but this is X amount of time I have off a day out of the week. And I can actually spend it time, relaxing, and rest is an important part.
Yeah. I don't think anyone maybe watching this who's thinking of starting their own firm realizes the importance of what you just said, because when you're a business owner, you almost never turn it off. You can always, let me hit an email real quick. And you're like, you said it so succinctly. When my time is off, I know I have that time off. If you're a business owner, you know exactly what you're talking about, because I feel like I haven't taken a vacation in a decade because every vacation I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And
uh,
it's such an easy cycle to find yourself in, just to, constantly be working and to constantly be off, but your brain needs, or to constantly be on, but your brain needs that time off.
mhm.
Rest is productive. And that, there's this whole self-care model of, self-care and building time for rest. Well, building in something and building in time for something is really overwhelming when you already feel like you are at your max end.
Yeah.
Trying to look at things and saying, okay, this is where I can build time in. Like for me, that feels like I'm adding on even more to something that's overloaded.
Okay.
In reality, I like, I have a really hard time with time blocking and thinking out into the future. My brain doesn't work very well in thinking out every step to the future. And
Okay.
so what I had to do is I had to look at what my now was. My brain very much lives in the now. And so I have and I still have, let's see, I still have this like daily plan where it goes in by the schedule, and I
Cool.
could write in my to-do list. I kind of break it down into 3 tasks. I try not to put more than 3 to 5, and then I'll go by the half hour.
Uh,
And it's reassessing and evaluating your now, because that's really all you can deal with is, for me, I can deal with my now and what I have on my plate, but adding in other things and then trying to deal with it is just very overwhelming for me. My brain just breaks down.
I hear you. Sounds like you're getting a good handle on it, though. Just getting it out of your head onto paper.
Yeah, I love paper. Even though everything is on my computer, I still love paper.
Yeah. How many associates do you have with you now?
I have 3 associates. They, I one was my opposing counsel that I just
Ah,
liked, and I hired him. My first associate, Thomas, he and I just, we had this crazy case, and he called me and said, "Hey, your client's crazy." And I said, "Yep."
oh boy.
And I was like, "Well, and they usually come in pairs. Tens don't marry twos." And he goes, "Yep." And so
Yeah.
immediately from our first conversation, we got along, even though we were rivals and something. We had a respectful disagreement on everything, even when we went to court. So when it was time to hire my first associate, I was pregnant, hadn't told anyone,
Okay.
and other than my husband, obviously. And I had enough work that I feel like I either had to scale down my practice and shut it down or scale up. And so I decided to scale up. I hired him, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. And
Nice.
then, Shannon called me a few months later and asked if she could join my firm. And I was like, let's do it. And I actually headhunted my last associate, Jordan, my latest hire. I headhunted him, and I started to just call people and ask them to, come work with me.
Awesome. How many paralegals are there?
So I have 2 paralegals right now, currently interviewing for a third full-time paralegal. And we have some contractors. It's just a matter of, going through that roadmap that I built out, kind of figuring out what work do we have on the table? And, how much work can we bill out for? And are we leaving money on the table? And once it becomes a matter of like we're leaving money on the table, we really need to be hiring.
Yeah. What do you do in terms of face to face or traditional marketing, like not internet marketing? Anything?
I've done some BNIs and some networking groups. I try to do Chamber of Commerce events and just go out and meet people. I am traditionally an introvert. I feel like I'm becoming more extroverted as I become older, as I am gaining a little bit more confidence in myself. I don't know if that's, really what it is.
Yeah.
Um, but I will tell you that every single person I know hates networking. And everyone's uncomfortable doing it. Nobody feels good. People go in and they cling to the one person they know and they stay there all night or all, the entire event. I go in with the mindset that every single person hates it.
Okay.
And I go in and I try to make other people more comfortable. And that makes me more comfortable.
Gotcha.
I feel like inviting people to your table to sit, asking them about themselves, asking them about what they do, why they're interested in it, the conversations that you and I are having right now.
Mm-hmm.
I used to actually have like 3 questions that I would kind of prepare myself that I would, boom, boom, boom. Tell me.
What are those?
Yeah, I would have the 3 questions that I would, kind of prepare to ask. Like, what do you do? How did you decide to get into this? How long have you been doing it?
Okay.
Just to get the conversation started, because I hate networking, but it's important,
Yes.
And knowing, or at least convincing myself that everybody else also hates it, makes me feel less alone.
Okay.
And helps me kind of break into it a little bit more.
Yeah. Good ideas. What okay, in terms of marketing or bringing in cases, is it such that Bustos family law is responsible for bringing in cases, or does every associate that works for you have this understanding that I need to be generating business? Like, how does this work?
So I have been very lucky in that my associates have been very passionate about bringing in their own business.
Wow.
But I do have an overall structure for marketing that Bustos family law is bringing in business.
Okay.
And so I think it's a combination of both. Both my associates and the business are bringing in new business. Overall, I think that family law is a realm where after a certain amount of time, people either want to go off on their own to do their own thing, or they want to become partners. And people don't want to stay stuck as an associate forever.
Yeah.
In family law. And it's a place where business is good. Usually, even during a recession, it's pretty stable. We don't worry about the big dips coming in as much, as which is part of why I got into family law, like stability.
Got it.
And so I think people, the people that work with me, my associates, they very much, I feed them. I definitely give them cases and I bring that in. But they're out hustling and they're making a name, for themselves and for the firm. And they'll say, like, I work for Bustos Family Law.
Wow. I talked to a lot of firm owners, and nobody's ever said their associates are passionate about bringing in business.
I've got some amazing people that work with me. Like, they're incredible, and I feel so lucky to work with them.
Yeah, you are, because nobody's ever told me that. Usually they're complaining like, how can I get my associates to bring in business? Is that kind of I guess maybe that's understood as a partner track. Like, if you're bringing in business, we're more apt to make you a partner. I don't know. Is that true?
Yes, I think that is true. If you would have asked me 4 years ago if I would have ever considered partner track or anything like that, the answer would be absolutely not. But the truth is that I'm making this up as I go along. I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers.
Right.
And I'm not going to pretend like there isn't flexibility for the future, especially for the people who damn well earn it.
Yeah.
I think that there are certain things that just make sense, but that doesn't necessarily, the timeline on that, I don't know. The money, is there a certain threshold? I haven't honestly decided that yet.
Okay. Yeah, I know when I worked at the last firm I was employed as an associate, we had like subject matter experts. Like, this girl she was on a partner track and she was like the brain. And then we had like people who brought in business and they were on a partner track. Maybe they didn't know much about the law. the one guy had a blog, and I remember when they brought him in, and they asked me, "Hey, you need to go train this guy how to do title opinions," and I'm thinking, this guy's a partner. I'm going to train him, and then I realized, oh, he just brings in business. Like he doesn't even do work, you know.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I think that I had the advantage of learning early on in my legal career is that people want to hire you, and law firms, if you are an attorney looking for a job working for someone else, people want to hire you if you make them money.
Yeah.
It's not about how great your decrees look or how great your motions look. They want to know, number one, are you feeding yourself? Number two, are you making me money? Sometimes that's switched for other people.
Yeah. Oh boy. What do you see in the future? Where is Bustos Law Firm going? What kind of do you sit down and on a regular basis and strategize like what's next? You know?
Uh, I kind of I have some lofty goals that I build out, and then I try to figure out how to make that happen. And I have made myself sound, during this conversation, I've made myself sound a little more calculated than I am, if
Okay.
I'm honest. There are certain things that I just kind of I do take some big swings, and I try to make things happen, because for me, if you take a big swing and you do a deep investment, you get a more rich return.
Mhm.
I hope to our goal in the next couple of years is to buy a building for the firm. I want a minimum 10 attorney firm. I want to be the people that, are the go-tos for family law. I want my associates to, when they walk into the courtroom, people say, "Oh shit," excuse me, "Oh shoot," you can bleep that out. My normal as a family law attorney, my normal conversation usually has a few colorful words in it.
Okay.
But I think that, I I really want to grow this into being a bigger firm that's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And my name is the one attached to it, and I'm the brand, and I'm the one who's managing it. And because I love doing that, that's honestly my wheelhouse. But yeah, I want to dominate Central Texas and maybe move outside of that.
Okay. Now we're sitting here in November 2022. There's a technology scene, there's a political scene, there's the overall market due to COVID. What can you think of that some challenges that people who own a family law firm are facing? Or what do you see that the major challenges on the horizon coming up? Anything you can think of?
You know, there's every 2 years there's a slight change in how the Texas legislature puts things out there. Um, I think some of the challenges are going to be uh, LGBTQIA community for children in particular. I think that when I was a kid growing up, I'm a millennial.
Okay.
Gay wasn't quite a thing, and now Generation Z, it's not even just a matter of being gay or straight. It's being trans. Um, it's being intersectional. There's all sorts of different
Okay.
places that you can fit in. It's not just one umbrella. But most importantly, when your child identifies as that and they're 5 years old or they're 12 years old, what does that mean for parenting? And there's already some pretty interesting case law that's happening that just, one court of appeals puts out a case and then it's like whiplash for the entire industry. I think as more people have different identities for themselves, especially children, it's going to take in some interesting cases for litigation, as well as, parents who disagree on how to raise their children, whatever that means.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess we are in the process of defining what a divorce means for, you know, maybe two trans people that are married.
Yeah. It's
maybe
a
stop
cultural
that.
shift.
Yeah.
That's the reality, is like the culture has shifted.
Okay.
And people can talk about, uh, whatever as far as their principles are, but the reality is that things are changing. And I don't I think that the law is trying to grapple with that, as well as, the traditional culture is trying to grapple with that also.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch that development. I guess you're on the forefront. You got a growing firm, and you're dealing with that every day out in Austin and Central Texas. What do you think about people are saying that Austin and San Antonio are going to become a metroplex? Do you consider what maybe your firm might do to get ahead of that? Like if Austin and San Antonio become like Dallas, Fort Worth.
It's like I should have been buying real estate in San Antonio this whole time instead of Austin. You get priced out of Austin, but San Antonio is still somewhat approachable in price. I love the idea of it becoming a metroplex. I'm originally from San Antonio, and I think it is, from a business owner perspective, it makes me very excited to think that those could be a place that are, more like sisters instead of cousins as far as distance.
Okay.
I don't know if other people would agree with that, but I think from a business perspective, it makes sense. It is close enough that, I have clients who are trying to sell their house, and maybe they sold it for an insane amount last year and they've got a great windfall, but they can't buy anything else.
Uh,
And so they're moving south, and they're moving to, even San Marcos and New Braunfels are becoming a little out of reach. And so I think it's going to be a natural progression for bigger businesses to eventually hit a little bit south of Austin and to go more towards San Antonio. You have some university systems there that are excellent. Trinity, UTSA is a tier 1 school. There's too many universities for me to name, so I'm sorry if I forget people's universities in San Antonio. But I think that there is a lot of opportunity for development in San Antonio. It's if I had a bit more money, I would be doing some more heavy investment, outside of Austin and into San Antonio.
okay. Well, it's very interesting. This is a lawyer show slash podcast, blog, whatever. We talk mainly business. There's so much business that goes on being an attorney, and you don't learn any of this in law school. So appreciate you coming on. I'm going to flash on the screen where we can find you, but tell the audience where we can find Bustos Family Law.
You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. All tags are at Bustos Family Law. And you can also find us on TikTok.
All right, great, Lisa. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thanks.
Got it, everybody.